Then, so you're growing up, you move at 6 years old, some things kind of shift. Eventually, you get a little bit older, you start to realize, okay, that place was just kind of that way, and you kind of start to grow out of it a little bit. I'm curious for you, like, if we fast forward even a little bit more in your life, if you could go to the moment of where you felt like you stepped in the quote unquote real world, do you remember that moment of like, all right, I'm like going to the real world, and I'm curious, could you kind of talk us through like what was that like for you, and how did you get through that?
I think I stepped into the real world twice, I would say. The first time when I was 20 years old, and I just had finished my military service back in Germany. It was still mandatory at that point in time. And I had no idea whatsoever what I wanted to do with my life. Really, no idea. Yeah. When the military service ended, it was like, now what?
Yeah.
And there was not much really in that time. We're talking 1999, 1998, it was pre-internet basically. So it was all very young. The big hype just started, with Yahoo and all those companies.
Yeah.
And it was very far away from rural Germany where I grew up. So it was like, what am I doing with my life? And then I heard this radio ad that the regional radio station there, they were looking for interns. And I was always very into radio. I listened to radio all the time. It would tootle all day because my dad loved music so much. And I was like, kind of cool. Music all the time. Of course, I didn't realize that there is more to radio than just music, but I kind of started. And I had the first real paid proper job. So I became a radio journalist, which I loved. It was like, just imagine being a kid going into a candy store and getting rewarded with even more candy just because you step into the store.
Yeah.
That's how that feels. I loved it.
That's awesome.
And then, 2001, 9/11 happened, and things went completely south in the privately financed, let's say, entertainment industry. So a lot of companies didn't know what would happen with the economy. So they stopped their ad spend, and it wasn't really good for me because I lost my job because of that, which kind of was the second time I realized, so now this is real life. And I think this was the moment when I actually took responsibility. It was not a coincidence, again, that I heard an ad in the radio. It was this time something, okay, you're in deep trouble now, my friend. You are in your early 20s. You just had 3 amazing years. You earned quite some money, but you blew it all because you just thought it would always be like that, right?
True that. Yeah.
What do you do with your life now? And I realized that everything I wanted, everything I reflected on and I wrote down on a piece of paper, I was like, can't do that because you don't have a college degree. Can't do that because of that. And I went down the list and I realized I had left school basically too early. So I went back to school 2.5 years full time as a grown-up, got my high school degree, and then went to university and studied business administration because I realized I needed to understand the world of business and economy way more because I couldn't see coming. I couldn't see the .com bubble burst coming. I couldn't see those things. And I was like, this is not rocket science, dude. You got to understand this life better. Yeah. So this is when I then really stepped into life once again. After university, graduating from this university, joining one of the largest media organizations in the world as an executive assistant and starting to dig into the world of strategy, business strategy. And this was when I finally found my passion. I was not happy at that point in time, though, I have to admit, because you realize that with a lot of, let's say, stepping into this corporate world is not for everyone. And at the beginning, I hoped it was for me, and I threw myself into it. It took years until I realized that it's not for me. Then I went into management consulting, and this wasn't for me either in a certain way, because it was more about people than about processes than it was about people. And only at that point in time, I mean, having worked in strategy all the time, right? It was the same topic, but in different contexts. only then it was this moment when I finally stepped into my power. This was in 2013 when I realized, you know what? You will not run away from this again. This is what you like. You love strategy work. You love working with people.
Yeah.
You have to find a job or invent a job that allows you to do that, because that's what you're passionate about. And that's when I became an entrepreneur, basically.
Yeah.